Rob, just to add to that as well,
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years ago, I felt the same way about your comment right now. You said the FANGs and these tech stocks were out of control. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to hedge myself too, because guess what? I was in all the tech deals as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I was investing left and right in tech. So I wanted to hedge. And the way to hedge was, in these early stage gold mining companies and exploration companies. And that's what I did. I hedged myself, and hedging myself here, I will continue to hedge myself with St. James Gold. As you know, when they announced me as the new chairman, I also committed $200,000 of my own money and capital into the company. That's how much I believe in the company, and I'm here to stay for the long term.
Hey everybody, this is Robert Keens with 𝙂𝙊𝙇𝙀𝙍.com. It is Friday, April 29th, 2022. I can't believe it. We're almost into May. It's been just a very, very quick year. A lot of stuff going on in the gold and silver sector. We have back a returning guest to the program from St. James Gold. It's George Drazenovic, who's the CEO, and he's here with the new chairman of the board of directors and the president, 𝙎𝙄𝙇𝘍, to talk about changes that have happened at St. James, basically since we interviewed last time. How are you doing today, George?
Fantastic. Thank you, Robert.
So I guess we should start off by introducing Jay. And I met him, I think, Jay, we met back in New Orleans last year originally when we were chatting with you guys. We had a booth right next to each other. But George, tell us a little bit about who Jay is and why you guys brought him on.
As the company continues to mature and grow, and it was incumbent on me to identify and bring in high-level talent and experience and a breadth of experience in the financing field and so forth. So Jay is a leader in this field. I thought it was a critical next step for the company as it evolves. And we've also built a stronger management team. We brought on stronger board members. But this all starts off with Jay leading as our new chairman of the company. And I'll let him speak to his background and experience.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, George. So my experiences, I've been a serial entrepreneur for over a decade. I was previously worked at an investment bank on Wall Street. So what drew me into St. James was the fact that it was such a, in my opinion, undervalued company, with gold reaching over 2,000 and, seemingly the management needed a little bit of work, and the board. So I was able to come in and I saw this new breath of fresh air in terms of the new board members and officers. And I felt like this was a great time to use my skill set to actually help advance St. James Gold to the next level.
Okay. And either of you talk a little bit about St. James Gold. Let's reintroduce it to the audience if they haven't followed you in a little bit. You guys have a project out in Canada. Tell us a little bit about that project.
So we have two projects essentially. One is in the Yukon, our Florence Gold project that's represented by a 2.5 million ounce inferred resource. And we just completed a drilling program in 2021 with the results coming out. Most recently, we'll speak to that in a moment. And we also have projects in Newfoundland right beside Newfound Gold and Marathon Gold. And there's an incredible amount of activity, as you know, in that area. So we're perfectly poised to take advantage of this unbelievable new gold rush. But I also want to speak to the board and the people that we brought on board, because this is incredible. The level of talent that we've been able to bring on board. One of our individuals, Terry, he came from Go Gold. He built a company from the grassroots up to a point where it was, I believe, $1 billion. And we also have Sean Tufford coming on board. So we have individuals that have built companies to incredible market caps, and I think that was a natural evolution.
Yeah, we just wanted to talk more about the other new members to the board as well. Lee Hughes, he's a prolific entrepreneur. He's invested in many Canadian public companies as well as U.S. companies. He's a native of Australia, but he's able to advance himself over into Canada because of the Commodities kind of rush, especially in gold. So he was looking for a gold deal to kind of put his name on as well. Again, high level individual, prolific entrepreneur. And then also we're able to bring on like a CFO. He's 𝙎𝙊𝙇𝙑𝙿. He's already a public market CFO. He has over a decade of experience as well. He's raised tens of millions of dollars for his companies that he's been a part of. So having a pedigree of a new CFO, of a new board member, bring myself on. I'm a native New Yorker, so capital markets is kind of, you know, ingrained in my blood here because I used to work on Wall Street. So helping St. James now reach the next level, it starts here with the management and with the board.
Yeah, and talking about the capital markets experience and the finance side, everybody knows you have to have your geology team, your technical team, but don't you also have to have people have access to the markets because you have to finance your development?
Exactly. So me being here, I'm able to maneuver and actually talk with institutional guys, bankers who usually don't focus on commodities or mining, but they've seen now the gold rush. They've seen how gold has surpassed 2,000 an ounce, and now they're interested. And this is a way, again, with us being undervalued, I feel like this was a great time to actually come to the capital markets here in New York and start planting the seeds, essentially.
And Robert, when we originally spoke, we spoke a lot about our projects, but you also have to have management strength to monetize these assets and to develop them and to create that shareholder value. So I think this is a natural evolution of the company, and I think we're perfectly poised now coming into the 2022 drilling season with the strength of management, our technical team with Stuart Jackson and others. And now with the expertise that we have from JU and the others in the capital markets, I think we're in a very good situation as a company going forward to create value for our shareholders.
So talk a little bit. I want to go back to something Jay said a minute ago. Jay, if you can talk a little bit about, we saw gold almost test its previous all-time high. We see what's going on geopolitically. Obviously, people are paying attention to that. From a capital market perspective, is Wall Street and our people starting to pay attention to the world and say, hey, gold may be, a place we want to be at?
Sure. There's a lot of buzz here in New York in terms of finding these undervalued commodity plays. For example, there have been a number of lithium, uranium companies that have uplisted from the smaller market caps onto a senior exchange like NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. For example, New Found Gold, right? New Found Gold was on the TSX Venture, and then they did a dual listing on NASDAQ. And now it's grown their institutional profile across North America. So having that access to the capital markets here only creates more deal flow for opportunities, especially in Canadian markets, right? Because most of the Canadian resource deals are up there, and bring them here now. Wall Street's actually recognizing that there's a lot of value, because if they could put millions of dollars into the ground, it creates a lot of enterprise value for the shareholder on this side.
Yeah, that's true. And I was talking with our good common friend, Peter Chang. I had him on the program a few weeks ago talking about commodities. And he said, Rob, I'm 100% in commodities. And I said, Peter, why are you 100% in commodities? I know you do real estate, you do a lot of other things. And he says, well, I see the growth there and the undervaluing of that sector. I think commodities are one of the things that just got ignored when we just went through this 20-year boom of technology and growth stocks and the FANGs and all that kind of stuff. Do you see an appetite more for people to get back into commodities? Are people starting to look for value there?
George, you want to answer that first, or you want me?
In a nutshell, absolutely. I think we're just in the second or third inning of this commodity boom. These commodity booms, generally speaking, occur in super cycles. They don't occur in 2 to 3 year spurts. When a commodities boom starts, like gold did in the 1970s and again in the 2000s, they last 10 years. And so I think we're perfectly poised with our assets to really monetize and build on this momentum in the commodity markets for the next few years. The other, there's, the demand and supply of gold, the issues of inflation, government debts. These are monumental headwinds or tailwinds for gold. There's no one denying that, this is an area that on a risk-return basis provides incredible return for investors.
And Rob, just to add to that as well, about 3 years ago, I felt the same way about your comment right now. You said the FANGs and these tech stocks were out of control. And I wanted to hedge myself too, because guess what? I was in all the tech deals as well. And I was investing left and right in tech. So I wanted to hedge. And the way to hedge was, in these early stage gold mining companies and exploration companies. And that's what I did. I hedged myself, and hedging myself here, I will continue to hedge myself with St. James Gold. As you know, when they announced me as the new chairman, I also committed $200,000 of my own money and capital into the company. That's how much I believe in the company, and I'm here to stay for the long term.
Yeah, and let's talk about gold. And you were talking about getting early stage gold projects, the leverage you get when you invest in those companies, which is really good. Let's talk about gold, the fundamental here for a second. I had a gentleman on my program yesterday, and this will come out in a couple of days, 𝙎𝙊𝙇𝙑𝘿 out in Northern Europe, who does a lot of study of the markets. And we were talking about the ruble and how Russia is saying, we'll buy gold grams for so many rubles. And what that does is create an incredible amount of demand for gold. But what it also does is it applies an implicit gold relationship to the ruble. So in other words, as we become more multipolar in our currencies, people are turning to gold to back up those currencies. Not necessarily explicitly by saying we're going to peg it 1-to-1, but it always comes back to gold. Gold has always had that role of, when you're going through currency issues, gold is what people will either peg it to, or they'll set price targets for their currency in gold. So gold acts as the backstop for the currency system. So going forward, and I'll ask this question to George, what do you suppose gold's role is going to be, given the fact that we are trading oil and yuan and all of these things? We're having de-dollarization. So how does gold play into all of this?
I think gold over the past decade or so has gotten lost in the excitement of technology and the other asset classes. But gold has a historical value. It's been around for millennia, and it always comes around back to gold being a safe haven, a store of value for investors. And I think now we're starting to see that in the marketplace. And again, when gold starts the ascendancy, it happens over many, many years. It just doesn't happen 1 or 2 years. And I think we're starting to see that in the markets. When we started talking about gold, it was a few $100s below. And I think we still are just at the beginning of this incredible new opportunity for investors.
I agree with you. Can we talk a little bit about your Florin Gold project? Let's talk a little bit more about your company and what you're looking for. I'm going to put up on screen basically just some rules, because this is kind of what investors will look for first. What's your grade? What are you finding? Talk a little bit about what you guys have found so far here.
So for a junior exploration company like ours, to have a 2.5 million ounce inferred resource as a backstop, I think it's pretty special. What we did in 2021 when we acquired the asset, we immediately raised capital and we implemented a drill program. And that drill program resulted in 16 drill holes all around the periphery of this 2.5 million ounce inferred resource, and also some step out holes 300 to 400 meters outside of this inferred resource. The results have been coming in from the assays, and they confirm what we already knew when we acquired the project, and that is gold is mineralized throughout the entire mountain, and there are intermittent areas of higher grade values. What our results have also showed is that we have some amazing targets on the northwest and on the southeast. And what that means is our template for exploration has doubled in size. So our inferred resource was based on 1 kilometer. We have a strike length of 5 kilometers. What that means is we can expand this project both laterally and at depth.
Yeah, and so in terms of what your expansion potential is, what you're basically saying is you can continue to drill, as you build out your resource.
Absolutely. So what the results have indicated is gold is mineralized throughout, and now we have targets that are more specialized for the 2022 drill season. When we also put into context the fact that we have rock samples that came back with incredible results, that reinforces the fact that we have high-grade targets that we want to aggressively go after in 2022. And just speaking to what we're trying to accomplish is that we're trying to expand the size and the scope of this project to the point where it's not only 2.5 million, but perhaps 5 million.
And what does that do? And when you get to that level, George, what does that do in terms of attractiveness to other companies? Does it make you an optionality play? All of a sudden, people may want to say, "Ooh, we're interested in that company," or do you guys plan on just building it out?
What it makes is the economics of the project start to make sense, where a major can come in and look at developing the project from an exploration project to a development project in a mine. And this project, we know gold is everywhere. What we want to do is find a lot more of it and also then monetize it. And that's why we brought in individuals like Jay, leaders in their industry, so that we can raise the capital that requires the drilling to get the project to where it needs to be, which is a project of sufficient
And just to add to
size.
George's comments, what drew me to St. James Gold was the actual size. It's 22,000 contiguous acres. And then not only that, the actual drill percent, there's only been 2% drilled or less of the whole asset. And we already have 2.5 roughly inferred ounces already, million ounces. So that shows you the scope and size and the Goliath this could actually become.
So walk us through, George, just a little bit. I'm just showing a map here of getting to the project, but walk us through the project itself. You know what I mean, the project itself. So Jay was just talking about the size of the project. Talk about the breadth of what you guys have.
So the inferred area that was previously drill tested, that only represented less than 80 acres. And as Jay suggested earlier, this project is over 22,000 acres. We also have neighbors to the south of us that are drilling and having excellent results as well. So this whole district is just going to explode in interest, over the near future. So a lot of excitement. Also, it's important to note that we have all the logistics in place. We have a Class 3 course license, which allows us to drill with up to 28 people on site. We have a company that's already identified and contracted out to drill. So, we are setting up the necessary steps in order to, expand this project in 2022.
Can you talk just a little bit about how much drilling you're going to do for 2022? Have you settled on a number?
We want to be able to drill at least 8,000 meters, perhaps 15,000 meters, and that's going to depend on a lot of different factors. Obviously, with excitement of gold in the Yukon, finding drills is no small challenge, but we've already secured one driller, and we're looking to expand on that as well.
So, Jay, I wonder if I could ask you a question about structuring. I'm going to put up on the screen your share structure from your presentation. Tell me how. I mean, you guys don't have a ton of shares outstanding, so
yeah. So this is another reason why I think St. James Gold is set up for success, because our share structure, most junior mining, especially early stage exploration companies, they usually have 100 million plus shares up, and they're usually 10 cents or 7 cents a share. We're sitting, roughly around 67 cents, and that we've come down drastically just because all junior mining companies have sold off recently. But we're just more volatile because of our share structure. We're a low float, essentially. That's what traders call our structure. So you can move up really fast and you could go down really fast. And obviously we're on a downturn now, but with gold, rebounding, and again, inflation is not going anywhere. So we're gonna make, and obviously with me being in New York and being able to now do road shows and talk more about the company's future and also its assets. I call it the West Coast, East Coast, with Yukon being our flagship, and then Newfoundland being our two other assets there, being kind of the next level and the excitement that could come on. And obviously, recently, Eric Sprott said, you know, Newfoundland is Canada's greatest gold find in history.
Mm-hmm.
So we have those assets there, and those are going to be dynamic assets where once we start drilling them, we could show the true potential as well. So that's another upside for the company in the future.
Yeah, it's a big upside. When you only have one project, you're banking on that project. When you have multiple projects, what happens to market caps is they typically reach a new tier, right? When you start drilling out and getting some results. So it's always better to, if you're going to invest in a company, invest in one that has multiple projects, because the market cap potential you have really goes up each time you have an additional project.
We thought it was imperative as a young company to diversify our asset base, so that, you know, we're not a one-trick pony, and that was critical to what we're trying to accomplish here at the company. One other thing I'd like to mention, Rob, is, you know, we talk about jurisdictions, and Newfoundland and Yukon are among the most mining-friendly areas on the planet nowadays. You hear a lot in the news, political risk. And there's not a lot of places in the world that are open and have a complete open door for mining exploration and development, and that's no small feat. I think, again, the Newfoundland and Yukon, these are provinces and jurisdictions that want exploration, they want economic development, and so we have, you know, the issues of environmental risk and indigenous risk is mitigated significantly.
And just to add to George, I think me and George were talking recently about tax incentives. Remember, George?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reoccurring tax incentives for gold exploration companies, and there's
Mm-hmm.
always ways that you know, we can help subsidize that for the future of the company.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's attractive to investors. It's attractive to the company, it's attractive to investors from like a cost perspective. So it looks like you guys tight share structure. So if somebody gets in, they're not getting in highly diluted, right? So you've got time and the ability to raise financings to develop.
Exactly.
And you guys
like
have
right
a
now,
good project.
Right now, we're at 15 million market cap with a 2.5 million roughly inferred ounces. In one, like George said, in one of the safest jurisdictions in the world, and I just feel like it's just totally undervalued in my opinion. You know, compared to some of these other companies that are out there. Obviously, we're in exploration stage, but that could change overnight if we start hitting some of these high grade veins.
Yeah, what you're saying is,
and that's what happened to.
Go ahead, George.
That's what happened to Freegold Ventures a couple of years ago. They had a couple of good intercepts. We're talking not great, but two gram material, and their market cap just shot up. And it's a very similar type of porphyry in Alaska to ours in the Yukon. You know, we're also really excited about our Newfoundland assets. Our Twin Lake property, we just announced an IP survey program. And right beside us is Marathon Gold. Marathon Gold also just announced in the past month or so that they're going to be aggressively exploring and drilling on their northeast side of the project, which lands right beside on the western boundary of our project. So we have one of the big players of gold in the country, Marathon Gold, stating that they're going to drill a long strike right abutting up to our border in Twin Lake in Newfoundland. So really exciting times for us.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You guys, like I said, you tight share structure, which is always attractive to investors getting in, especially at an earlier stage. But you already have almost 3 million of ounces in a resource. You're working on more your multi-project, so there's a lot of expansion potential and growth potential for the company. And I think when people get in at this stage, because you only have 23 million something shares out, they're not getting in a diluted basis. They're getting in and they're having opportunity.
And by the way, I'm writing a check myself. So, you know, if the chairman is writing a check and doing insider buying, I mean, it shows great strength and just how I view the company as well.
And it's the perfect time for you guys to do it, because my whole thesis of running this website the last 2 years is we're about to see the biggest gold market ever. If that's true, or even remotely true, companies like yours have and are developing these resources are going to do very well, and you're going to have leverage to the gold price. So it's definitely an area for people if they want to speculate on the gold price, and then we get outside of fiscal and they want to own an equity. You look for companies just like this. You have some established deposits. You're drilling out. You're not over diluted. This is a perfect place for an investor to get involved.
And the pedigree, obviously, that just came in too with we have Terry, who has 40 years of mining experience. His last two deals have literally gone into production and reaching billion-dollar market cap. So this is, we have the right pedigree now with the company to take this to the next level.
And Terry, he was involved, obviously intimately involved in Built Gold. But that's a company that had assets in Newfoundland. So Terry is intimately aware of the politics and also, just the geology of Newfoundland. So he was a very important strategic, draw, bringing him to the company. It was very important to have somebody.
He's definitely going to be very valuable when we start drilling the Newfoundland assets. Quinn Lake, Grub Line. Again, Grub Line is right across the fence, essentially, from Newfound Gold. So that's been a very, that's something on my radar too that I brought up to the board that we definitely want to be aggressive on, because with the hype around Newfound Gold, we could actually, some of that could carry over to us once we start drilling.
Yeah, that's right. I think that news cycle, we saw what happened to Newfound Gold itself and some of the other companies out there. That was, when that happened, when the magic happens in a district, it does tend to raise all the players.
Sure.
And one other thing I wanted to add to the experience you put on the team, 𝙂𝙍𝙇𝙍, who we profiled before, is a very successful company.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, has a running mine. We've had them on the show before.
Great.
Not only they have a running mine, but their asset that they're building right now is even much, much bigger than what they've got going on. I think 𝙂𝙍𝙇𝙍 is going to be very successful company with some of their Mexican assets. So having somebody that was previously with that team and built that company.
He was the chairman and president and CEO. Yeah. So we have the guy from there.
Right.
And Sean worked intimately with them as well, Sean Tufford. So we have two other guys.
Well, good. It's good to get an update. You guys have done a lot. You've done some exploration, but in addition, you built out your team. And that's the biggest part. The biggest part of a successful mining company is the team. It's always the biggest part. You can have a great project. If you don't have a great team, the project goes nowhere. So it takes a team with experience to do it. Good to meet you, Jay, again, since New Orleans, and good to have you on. And good to see you again, George. Any last thoughts before we go ahead and wrap this one up?
Looking forward to just talking to you again in a few months, hopefully, and just updating everyone. We should be, taking the company to the next level by then.
I agree with that. George, any last thoughts?
I'm excited for 2022. It took us, 18 months to position the company to acquire the assets that we needed, and also build out the management team, which we've accomplished. And so we're looking, we're hopeful of a very bright future.
Well, I think you guys will have one. If any, what you've done so far is any indication. Of course, we're going to be following in and bringing updates to the channel. So look forward to speaking to you guys again. Thanks for joining the program.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Robert.